What's up, beautiful people? I'm Nathaniel Pearl.
And I'm Sam Sheva.
And welcome to Curious Chimps Podcast, a show where we explore the infinite complexities of the human experience.
We do not endorse anything illegal, so please, consult doctors, do your research, and for the love of all that is holy, be safe. All right, let's talk about drugs.
Curious Chimps.
Yeah, man. So, what's up, Greg?
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Excellent, man. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me, man. Extremely blessed to be here, and also extremely grateful for y'all inviting me.
Yeah, and I mean,
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know much about you, which is actually kind of cool because it's going to be as organic as possible. But
Okay.
Maybe you want to just throw out just a little summary of who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my name is George Gregory Lake. Online, I go by Greg Lake. That's what most people who know me call me by Greg. But I'm a trial and appellate lawyer based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I grew up in Northeast Texas. Let's see. I was a drug addict for 17 years. I went through college, went to law school, passed the Texas bar originally. My mother died my third year of law school, so it kind of added fuel to my addiction. And so once I got licensed in Texas thereafter, it didn't take me long on the opiates to kind of basically ruin everything. I was homeless for 2 years. Wow. I ended up going to jail, and then I was in inpatient residential treatment for 31 months in a therapeutic community. Did my time there, and by chance, by blessing, ended up at the law firm I'm at now, where we do plaintiff's work for maritime workers, people who get injured working on the river or the ocean. So that's the kind of work I do now. Once the pandemic started, that's when I actually wrote my book, my Psychedelics and Mental Health series, my first book, Psilocybin. I had a little bit of free time because couldn't go to the gym. All the restaurants and everything were closed. So I kind of just took that free time at night to research and write my first book.
Sweet.
I guess a little bit of background on me. Shortly after my mom passed away in 2010, I was at a friend's ranch in South Texas and had my first, very deep mystical experience on psilocybin. And I tell people that, I had a big information download during that experience that, at the time I was in an addiction. And to be honest, I was in 2010. I knew nothing about integration or anything of that sort, but I did absorb a lot of spiritual, enlightening, what I would say ancient information. And so once I did get sober in 2016, I actually came to be able to start processing that information. And I could tell I had a leg up on other people in my rehab because I was just absorbing these spiritual principles that were being taught to us, both by our counselors, then also kind of anecdotally within the community. I was picking it up very quickly. And I don't want to say I would have flashbacks, but I would be able to kind of think back to and relate to some of the epiphanies I had during that experience with psilocybin. So fast forward to 2018 when I was released from the facility, and I was able to actually get a cell phone. So while I was in there, we had no access to the outside world, no email, cell phone, anything like that. So once I was able to get a cell phone and, I was kind of reading all these articles about the science that they had done, since 2010 on psilocybin, I was, in awe. I said, whoa, so this is, a lot of this is basically verifying my own personal experience with it. And then also too, along the lines of people taking antidepressants and still struggling. I saw a lot of that in the rehab community. And so what spurred me to write the book really was the fact that I saw all these articles. A lot of them covered the same studies. Every now and then you'd see a different study and from all these different years. And I just said, well, I think that this community would be served, if someone were to go and collect all the data or all the studies and put them in one resource, in a comprehensive fashion to where, someone could reference these studies, in one source. And so that's kind of how the book idea came up. And since then, since I put the psilocybin book out, I have decided that I'm going to continue to write the series. I think my next book's going to be on DMT. And so I've kind of, and we talked about this earlier, I've kind of got into the psychedelic church scene too. So I think another book on, psychedelic sacraments and religion as far as it relates to law in the U.S., I think is also in order.
I would read the crap out of that. That'd be a really interesting book. A lot of like lore, a lot of history, and then a lot of like how like just suddenly smashed cut to the present, and like all this legal red tape for people to do like these highly spiritual, and like religiously entwined ceremonies, and be exempt essentially because they're using these like controlled substances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, I heard you just say something, you went from spiritual to religious, and a lot of people have trouble making that leap. But for purposes of protection in the U.S., we're going to have to label it religious, and I think people have trouble with that term because of how a lot of organized religions have kind of bastardized it, and I get it. Mm-hmm. But really, a lot of the spiritual beliefs, around these plant medicines, both new beliefs and ancient beliefs regarding the plant medicine are religious as far as the law is concerned. And so I think people need to understand that while we say, we're setting you up a church or this is a religion, it's really just for legal purposes. And everybody wants to enjoy that protection. So everything's a give and take in life. Sometimes we have to accept some terms that we might not necessarily like, but that afford us the protection that we need and deserve in order to get out there and propagate and get more people involved in engaging with the plant medicine.
It's also about the message behind what you're serving and what this is really about. And it's not about our perceptions of calling it a religion or whatever. This is the way to get it to the public in a legal manner, and it's above all of us. So if the message can come out through that avenue of being a church, being under a religion, it's still going to serve its purpose regardless of what label we're putting on it. And I think it's important for us to understand and take that step back and be like, no, the bigger picture is not my perception of what religion is. It's what this medicine is meant to offer, and to honor the medicine as its medicine and not put ourselves in front of it,
And I agree. And so along those lines too, the plant medicine serves essentially the same purposes as what an organized religion would serve theoretically. We got people who have troubles. They come to consult the teachings, the plant medicine, in order to better their life, overcome obstacles, specific life questions, overarching life questions. They essentially serve the same purpose. Now, I will say this. I recently went to a ceremony probably about 3 weeks ago and observed and did some anecdotal research at the same time. And I will say that just the peace and love from the people at that place, I've never received at a regular, Christian church. And I'm not singling Christianity out, but that's just been my past experience. And not only that, just the amount of change people are able to have in their lives with as simple as one or two, or as little as 1 or 2 or 3 ceremonies, it's unmatched, And so, consultation with the plant medicine, there's something there. There absolutely is. And I think at this juncture, at least anecdotally, with the anecdotal research that we know of, there's really no contesting that.
Yeah,
it's in the spiritual context. It's like it's a kind of trial. It's a kind of like you're communing, like you're saying, and it's something you could fast or you could meditate for a long time, or you can take this thing. There's this kind of sacrament mentality, but there's also obviously this journey and this download, like you used the word before for psilocybin. And I would personally say, I don't know if I'm stealing this from somebody, but by the way I define the words, I could comfortably say that spirituality is religion in practice. Like it's not one or the other. I think that religion does have a bad rap, and that hopefully that's softening lately, and people are
Yeah.
comfortable and like less ashamed to say that they're Muslim or Christian or Buddhist or whatever. But obviously, Catholicism has a terrible rap, and a few other religions are kind of just like on the chopping block, you know. So it's tough to say. But it's funny that you're talking about the love you receive, and I wonder if that's because there's a camaraderie, because there's kind of this like uncertainty, you know. There's a legal gray zone, and there's a fight, you know, and that's maybe cementing people together. Obviously, the ayahuasca or the whatever the medicine in the ceremony and the religiosity behind it, like the method, the set and setting, like we always talk about, like those are all imperative also, and obviously creating that kind of love atmosphere. But maybe Christianity is just kind of lost its flavor for a lot of people, and a lot of people who grow up in religious households, they describe their parents as like going to church reflexively, you know, and they're not getting what they want, what they need out of it, and they could. You don't necessarily have to go drink a cup of ayahuasca or something, but anyway, I guess I'm trying to kind of diffuse that religion is bad and it's separate from spirituality, like in a legal context where we have to meld the two, but they are obviously sisters, you know. They're one kind of leads to the other or connects to the other.
I almost feel like this is like a religious renaissance in a sense. It's like we're having like these churches forming, and these are like real religious spiritual experiences that people are having in their own connection with the source of their source. And this is parallels with people. Some people can go to church, a Christian church or a Jewish synagogue, and they can have a religious experience because they truly connect with it. But a lot of people are feeling left out because they just don't connect with that avenue, and they tried their childhood and they were forced to go to church or synagogue or whatever. But when these ceremonial religious places are opening, it's like people are actually connecting with that source that everyone's been talking about in their religion growing up in, and it's the moment for them to have that religious spiritual experience, you know.
I agree 100%. And, you know, and I will say this too. I don't think that, you know, someone engaging with the plant medicine and going home and maybe reading the Bible is wholly inconsistent. I mean, look, there are a bunch of great lessons in a lot of different holy texts that I think that jive 100% with what the plant medicine teaches. I think there's just a fundamental understanding of peace and love and connectedness that plant medicine gives you, that you can actually then go read these holy texts and understand and better apply those teachings. Whereas someone who hasn't necessarily come to understand the connection and love and how powerful it is can read those texts and maybe understand it, but then when they go to apply it, this socially constructed world that we live in prevents them from properly applying those lessons. And I'm going to say not necessarily through a lot of their fault. You know, I think we grow up in the socially constructed environment with divisions, you know, in it, you know, we grow up in that environment, and so it prevents us from really completely understanding or fully appreciating exactly how connected we all are.
I had never thought of it that way. It's so obvious when you put it that way, but like, it's like two avenues for the same conclusion, you know. And you're giving someone a taste, you know. It's like you're talking about this upbringing effect, you know, where we're kind of disconnected and disenfranchised in this kind of spiritual sense. And then you may or may not have, you know, some religious experiences, some psychedelic experiences, some reference to some spiritual or religious text. But mixing the two is giving your left brain like something to chew on and having these words, but they're informed by this experience, this taste. And like ayahuasca is a great, for me personally, I had this kind of connection to my ancestors, which I have, but I had an awareness of it. We all have a connection to our ancestors just by how that works. But to feel it and to think of it and to make it feel real, now the things I read have more weight, have more impact. I have this like, oh, okay, I am connected. I am like the tip of the spear of the experience of like all of humanity, and that's that's not a burden, but it is a responsibility. There's something beautiful about it. And then you look around and all my brothers and sisters are doing the same thing, and there's this big connectedness. And then you read some words of Jesus Christ or something, and it makes so much more sense.
It's true, man.
And I honestly never thought of it that way, but it's so right now that I hear you say it.
And just specifically, I mean, let's think about, when I think about Jesus Christ, and there's a guy on YouTube, his name is, I can't think of it right now. He's got a ton of followers, but he talked briefly after one of his ayahuasca experiences, it was a psilocybin experience in Mexico where they had like Jesus and the Mother Mary on the wall. And he said, you know what? I came to realize that Jesus Christ represents what it's like a person who lived through the soul and not the flesh. And I think that resonates well for me because, as I engage psilocybin and other plant medicines, it's like I realize that anything that's not done with peace, love, and understanding, I'm not saying it's the wrong way, but I don't know how spiritually informed it is. And I think Jesus Christ represents what it's like to actually go through life and purely act out of peace, love, and understanding. And I think we're a big disconnect for a lot of people, and why people are going to plant medicine more is because the people who proclaim Jesus a lot of times act completely opposite to peace, love, and understanding. And I think it turns people off because our spirit, that's what it craves. And when you're going into a holy place, like a certain churches or whatever, where the people are spewing hate from the pulpit, it's contrary to your spirit. And some people who aren't so far gone into it get disengaged through that. And there's a pull towards the plant medicine. And I will say one thing right now. I think this push towards plant medicine, I think Mother Nature is involved in this. I think Mother Nature is involved. I can't tell you exactly how, but I just have suspicions that we have abused her long enough that now she is using several different avenues. But I think the plant medicine is one to bring us back to her in a state of symbiosis with her. That's my feeling on it.
I've said this quote many times, and Sammy usually quotes me quoting it, but it feels like ayahuasca spreads her vines across the globe. That's the sensation that I get from it. It's like from where I started my journey of studying these plant medicines back in 2012, it just the light bulb hit it. I'm like, ayahuasca, I got to learn about this. And I would talk to people about ayahuasca, and it was like, what are you talking? What's ayahuasca? And now in today's conversation, it's almost not everyone, but I would say it's now the majority of people I have a conversation with, they've heard of ayahuasca. Their cousin has did ayahuasca. Their friend has partaked, or they had partaked in the ceremony. And that is new to me because I didn't have these conversations 5-10 years ago. So it is clear and evident that it is spreading. And if you use that analogy of the vines are spreading, it's like you said, like Mother Earth is trying to talk to us or trying to communicate to us. Because after those ceremonies, there's a lot of insights that happen, and you really feel connected to Earth, and you feel like now you have a responsibility in a sense to better yourself and to be more conscious in your living. And that's through a plant that's from the planet, from Earth, that's communicating to you. So I'm with you on that suspicion. I think
maybe in a sense we feel like we should spread the word because of like going through the experience.
Yeah,
it's kind of obvious to say, but you get a good thing and you want to tell everybody.
Well, it's like the seeds of the plant is in you, and now that seed wants to grow through you and then plant into other people.
It's almost like it's like a type of teaching. It's like understanding that this is like a knowledge almost, and you want to pass it on just for the betterment of the species.
I just had a mind-blowing thought that we're kind of like bees that are like pollinating different plants, and it's the message we're pollinating the psychedelics to other people, and that's how it spreads and grows.
No, that's right. And it's really speaking our truth, speaking our truth to other people. And, I'm like y'all, I see a softening generally of ideas and thoughts towards plant medicine. I see this as like a 3-pronged front. I see the science like that is in my book as part of it. I see these religious retreats and ceremonies as part of it, and I see the decriminalization movements as part of it. Now, the science, like I wrote my book on, really permeates the other two. And I know a lot of people in the spiritual will say, oh, we don't agree with this science or how they're giving the medicine. I get it. But in America, whenever the government comes and shuts you down, you're going to have to file an injunction under the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, okay? So when you file a Religious Freedom and Restoration Act claim, it's up to you to prove that they substantially burdened a sincere exercise of religion. Now, to do that, and that's what I've been helping these organizations do, is to get their beliefs in order and written down in a comprehensive manner, and get their ceremonies and how they operate down on paper, so that way when they go to make this claim, they can let the documents speak for themselves. Now, here's where the science comes in, because then the burden will shift to the government to prove that they have a compelling governmental interest in burdening the exercise, and that it's the least restrictive means of doing so. Well, under what their burden basically entails is to prove that the Controlled Substances Act in this situation, that there's a compelling governmental interest in improving it. Well, one way you fight back against them saying, oh, well, psilocybin's dangerous, we got to protect the health and safety of these church members, or DMT is dangerous, we have to protect the health and safety of these church members. Well, that's where the science comes in, okay? That's where you can pull out these studies and show the court, look at the safety and efficacy that's been proven through the science of these substances. And more specifically, these ceremonies we're doing, while not exactly the same, or substantially similar kind of how these scientists are administering in these clinical sessions. And so that kind of, it shoots a blow at the government's case. And so if we look at the UDV case in 2006, the Supreme Court, or actually it was the district court through the appellate courts and ultimately Supreme Court, rubber stamped the finding that at that time in 2006, it was about 50-50, which the government couldn't carry their burden because, strict scrutiny. So it was like 50-50 on the health and safety issue. And I just saw they are starting actual phase 1 clinical trials with DMT. So I imagine as the science evolves, the government's prospects of shutting down a psychedelic church who's doing it sincerely and safely are going to diminish very rapidly. And so we indeed are living in very interesting times. And again, I see the church front as very important in generally leading towards the legalization, because again, we're softening people's views around these substances. And then going on to the decriminalization movement in the U.S., every local jurisdiction who has decriminalized these plant medicines, specifically psilocybin, directly cites to the studies in my book on kind of, I call it the recital section, but it's like, why are we passing this act? And, that's where they will cite to those studies. So when I wrote the book, I didn't realize at the time exactly how much the science permeated, particularly the religious front, but it is very much a part of it, as much as a lot of the spiritual people have trouble with the science that they, and I think a lot of it has to do with these are sacred medicines and they should only be done in these ceremonies. And I get it. And that does go to the sincerity of the religious beliefs and practices. But at the same time, what they have to realize is that if the DEA comes and shuts them down, their lawyer's going to be putting those studies up in front of the court and admitting them into evidence to try to combat the government's assertion that they have a compelling governmental interest in enforcing the Controlled Substances Act. So, when I wrote this book, it was really just an interest of mine, but it's kind of now where it's permeated and pushing me towards these other aspects of the legalization front, as I would call it.
Yeah, I like this 3-prong thing because it's like the front door in our society right now is science. These things that unfortunately fall by the wayside, which is why we're all here in a way. These things are important and need to be reintegrated. And you mentioned integration at the beginning, and like obviously in an individual sense, but it seems like we're kind of talking about the struggles of reintegrating this ancient medicine into our current society. Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, that's right. Yeah. And like I say, I think the medicine itself is has an active role in it, whether it be through like inspiring people who are on the front, or just everyday individuals who are consuming it, then going out and telling, their friends, family, other people about it. It's got an active role in it as well. And, I'm just so happy and blessed to be part of this movement. And, I've come to where I practice law 8 to 5, and then from 5 till I go to bed, I'm at the service of the medicine.
That's cool, man.
You know?
You're in the field, so you're seeing all the processes happening. Have people lightened up on these substances as a general view, like in the legal setting?
What's crazy? So I'm a trial lawyer, so I'm actually around a lot of lawyers and other high-powered people here in Louisiana. And I mean, I can't relate to you how many people that, other lawyers I've told about my book, and, they'll either come to me and say, yes, I've done that before, or B, I'm very interested in this. I'm very interested in seeing what this is all about. And so, and I suspect that there probably are some high-powered people in our society who have engaged, whether it be plant medicine or maybe LSD, who know and understand its powers, but because of, a lot of the hardcore views towards it, are I'm not going to say unable, but kind of unwilling to come out and say it. But again, as these views start to soften up, and I was talking to somebody the other night, we were trying to talk about the most, efficacious way towards legalization. I said, well, it might be getting some of these high-powered people to engage with the plant medicine. I mean, literally, we can talk numbers, and numbers is great, but there might come a point in time where it's actually who are we getting to engage with it, and what are they able to do for the movement. And, I'm not saying that as kind of like, I don't want that to sound wrong, but, some people obviously have more influence than others as far as getting laws passed or getting policies pushed through.
Get the medicine inside
and
of
so
them.
maybe there comes a point where we need to think about the quality, and I don't mean this, but like the quality of the individual that we're having engage as far as their influence is concerned.
They're the gatekeepers for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the truth. It's weird, but it's the truth. Like it's a system of humans, and we have to get them to drink some cups and have a real opinion about it.
This reminds me of a Terrence McKenna talk one time. He said, DMT is the ultimate, psychedelic, and here's why: because the doubters, it only takes them about 10 minutes to go this experience. So surely they have 10 minutes to engage with this before they pass judgment. We should challenge them.
Yeah,
I like that because he's right. Like, as a matter of fact, I would like to challenge these people to take one hit of 5-MeO DMT, some bufo, and then come back and tell me what they think, whether these are sincere religious practices and whether there's something religious there. I spoke with and am very close to a gentleman that engaged in bufo when I went to the church in Texas, and he just described it as being plugged right back into the energy source that connects us all.
Yeah.
He said, I now understand and felt the energy source that literally connects all of us. Wow. And that's fairly profound, and so I think a lot of these people, if they were to experience that, it would completely shift their set of ideals towards the medicine.
For sure. I think it has to come naturally, that decision, though. It's like I don't know if they'll have that same type of profound experience if they're not willing to let go of the illusion or of their resistance towards it. It has to come from a place of purity to jump in and take that hit of that bufo.
That's the point of debate for me.
You're right. I agree with that.
And I think it's going to happen because as the movement progresses, more and more people are experiencing this. And maybe that person we're talking about in the higher positions, a family member talks about it and it resonates or rings a bell in him or her. And then they finally decide, there's something here I want to see. And boom, I think that's how the tide is going to rise up.
For sure, it's insidious. I mean, it's funny because we're talking about it as a kind of taboo, and people don't want to come out. And at the same time, it's almost like a trend and a movement.
Well, it's coming to that.
Really,
yes.
At the same time, there's people who are curious. They feel left out. They genuinely want to partake and see what it gives. And at the same time, depending on what position you have in the world or where you live, you just can't talk about it publicly at risk of your your social standing,
career.
or it's really something.
Yeah.
But I'm a little on the fence about what you guys are talking about, because obviously intentionality and like willingness, freedom of choice are important. I don't want to dose people, but like the medicine is the medicine at the same time, and you're gonna in the context of what you're talking about, Greg, like they will at the very least be able to say, okay, this is definitely sufficiently categorizable as a religious thing. Like even if you don't have this crazy religious experience, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like you guys do what you got to do. I now have a personal experience, and I get it. You guys do your thing. I think most people would have that, like, if not like a complete change of heart and mind, like they'll just be like, oh, okay, I see now. And maybe in some not so far off future, people who are in a political landscape kind of have to do these things to get that ancestral mindset.
I've heard that I've heard that proposed, and I couldn't agree more with it. Again, I don't think psychedelics or plant medicine are necessarily for everybody, but I do think that people should have that opportunity should they, want to seek the medicine. And, I think as people would witness others, again, let's go back. Let's say a high-powered person has, a family member who's an addict or severely depressed. And then they see them, or they're aware of them engaging with this medicine, then come back and they're like, whoa, look at this person now. I mean, that's compelling. And maybe just that alone could win them over. But again, and I do agree that, intention, taking Bufo or something very powerful like that is key and important. I think there probably is a dose of Bufo to where, letting go is not an option.
I've been there.
That it's going to happen. That it's the break is going to happen. But again, even taking a light dose of Bufo would probably at least indicate to someone that, like, hey, these people aren't just blowing smoke up our rear end. There is actually something here that they're latching onto. And like I tell everybody, a lot of people I talk to from day to day is that the proof is in the pudding. You have these doubts about psilocybin, read my book. Even these scientists are denoting and finding things that ancient cultures have known for thousands of years.
That's it.
This is not, like they say, the old saying, there's nothing new under the sun. There isn't. These things have been going on for a very long time. Ancient cultures understood what we now put in scientific terms as depression, addiction, things like that. And they were using, what I tell people, these are nature's antidepressants and addiction drugs, and nature provided that for us. And because, I've been in the AA scene for a long time, and obviously we say that, or I believe that addiction is really a spiritual issue. Much like I also believe to a certain extent, depression is a spiritual issue. And these, medicines, according to the science and ancient practices, provide, a mystical or spiritual experience. In my book, I talk about the mystical experience. And science, as of now, even with the most sophisticated brain imaging, is unable to really tell us exactly what that is. Yeah. And I don't know if they ever will be, because, and here's a fundamental thing I always think of is that, to me, I think a lot of what we receive during these experiences actually emanates from outside of your head. Now, science would never acknowledge anything like that. And as a matter of fact, Robin Carhart Harris would probably flip out of his bed if he discovered that was true. They do not want to talk about that. But I think it's pretty clear to me anyways that these medicines activate some part of our brain where we are able to receive messages from another dimension, spiritual realm, however you want to define it. And science will never be able to see that, quantify that, or fully comprehend that. And so there is a leap of faith here that we have to take. And moreover, I like that they talk about the mystical experience, because that's where these religious organizations need to just start picking up and say, look, court, science is great and they've proven this is safe and efficacious. But, as far as the actual dynamics of the experience, this mystical experience they can't explain, that's our religion. And this is what we believe that it is. You know,
This-
so that's again going back. That's how the science and the religious aspect of it can actually work in tandem with each other to afford people greater protection and freedom to engage with these medicines.
It's almost like grabbing the mystic side of it as like a veil, and being like, look,
Yep.
man, I'm protected. Like the science, like we were saying, like, we call it plant medicine almost like as a reflex, but these things, there's a lot of science about why these things are very good for the body and the mind. But that spiritual, that religious protection is like a little amorphous, like by nature. So you just get to, legally, we get to put it in front and say, this is why I'm doing this. This is what's like the reason. This kind of bypass all the red tape, or I kind of give into the red tape in a sense and be like we can fit into your definition, because thank God we have a place for that in our government, where I love that despite all the craziness in humanity and the ways that we organize and the ways we just have fun destroying ourselves, we always have these glimmers, we always have these shafts of light, and that's one of them, where they just say religious exemption is like a thing, and maybe it's a thing because churches want to dodge taxes or something complicated that I don't understand, but we get to hijack that, we get to use that for our benefit and give these beautiful ceremonies, these plant medicines, they get a platform, they get that integration that we talked about earlier. Thank fucking God.
Yeah. Earlier, I heard you mention the Catholic Church, and look, I'm not going to sit here and bash the Catholic Church. There's a lot of Catholics where I live, and there's a lot of good Catholics where I live, just individuals that I know who actually go to church and listen to the sermons, my boss being one of them, and lives by that. But the Catholic Church filed a amicus curiae, which means like friend of the court, brief with the U.S. Supreme Court on behalf of the UDV in 2006. So these organized religions have an interest in also seeing that plant medicine people don't get infringed on either, because there could be a potential slippery slope that goes, and then now, because they infringe this part of the plant medicine, it's only then they have to go after this part of the Catholic Church. So with that being said, the Catholic Church has, taken a stance in favor of at least the UDV, but it would only be right that they also extend that to other people, other organizations engaging in plant medicine. So there is a community of interest there. Could I exactly define it? Not necessarily, but obviously there is, for them to, hire lawyers to file briefs in support of the UDV.
Yeah. What a weird time. what an awesome time to be alive.
Yeah, it's incredible that this is all happening. It feels like it's been ramping up the past few years, but it's like the tidal wave is coming. Like, I think MAPS right now is stage 3 clinical trials with MDMA therapy. It's like these things are all ramping up right now to like the pinnacle, with all the chaos happening in the world too. It's just like I think it's just above our understanding, but it's like the chaos and all the beauty, it's all just meshing together, and it's going to sort itself out in a sense.
Yeah, it's almost like this insidious like idea that never left. Like it's just this rediscovering, I think so many people are in some kind of one way or the other. You were talking about depression and anxiety and addiction and things like that, and these are definitely, I speak from a little bit of psychology knowledge and a lot of personal experience. These are symptoms of existential crises. This is not necessarily a chemical imbalance or an environment, nature nurture. Like this is I don't know what my purpose is in life. This is I don't know where society is going. This is I think I know where society is going, and it's circling the drain, and it's making me have a kind of existential dread, and you name it. I can keep listing, but any of the plant medicines I've tried have definitely helped to alleviate that, or at least make me understand it better so that I can work to alleviate it. And that is fucking invaluable to the individual and thus to the collective.
I want to add to that, because when you have that existential crisis and that panic of purpose and what the fuck is going on, you're actually seeking for guidance.
You're an open wound at that time.
Yeah.
That's the time when you're going to learn and grow and crack
that's
open.
where I'm seeing plant medicine sneaking in. Well, not even sneaking in, but just revealing itself to the guidance that we're seeking is actually right in front of us, and it's coming.
Almost sneaking out of the human experience. Like, oh, like we're cracking open and we're remembering that this can help us, because out of a kind of mixture of, it's like symptoms of our growing society is this desperation to kind of recapture this contentment in the zeitgeist, but also we look at everything, we spread around. So now things like ayahuasca can't hide. You know, and like my 10-year-old listens to Joe Rogan, like I don't know, I don't have a kid there, I'm saying, as hypothetically, like, you know, like some, you don't know who is going to suddenly know what salvia is or what ayahuasca is or something. And not in a superficial way, but in a way where they have information and they're curious, and they may or may not even want to try it, but they just know it's there, and it's not taboo anymore. And you know, it's integrating, whether it's reintegrating. It's almost like we're getting out of our own way and realizing that we have turned our back on Mother Nature, and it's kind of like it's like throwing its shoe on our head as we walk away. Like, hey, don't forget about me. I'm still here, you know. And it's not a light tap. It's not a love tap. It's a mule kick, because we are wrecking shit.
It's like a, hey, get your shit together kind of kick.
Yeah, exactly.
Because your shit's now affecting my shit.
I guess we need it. I guess that's the sad truth, is that we're a little bit lost. I mean, do you feel this is a battle in a way? Do you feel like you're fighting a battle? Do you feel like you're at the front of like a line, and that there's wins and losses, and it's a bigger war?
You know, I do in a sense, but you know, like I said earlier, I like to move. It is a battle, but one that I fight out of peace, love, and understanding. I think it's very important that us, you know, I'm not going to say I'm a leader in the community, but you know, I have put myself out there and am a huge advocate. But you know, I think it's important that we lead by our actions, in our words. Which means, you know, speak kindly to people, be understanding that there are opposing viewpoints, and just try to, you know, tackle those opposing viewpoints, you know, as calmly and, you know, even-headed as we can, at the same time, through my actions of, you know, helping others, and just a host of other things, kind of leading through that, where people say, wow, look, you know, these guys aren't protesting or doing anything crazy. They're really just speaking, you know, from science and logic and history, you know, just trying to educate people. And, you know, basically they embody the peace, love, and understanding that the world needs. Check them out. You know, that's kind of how I see it. But I mean, in a sense, is it a battle? Yeah, it's a battle. You know, there's still a lot of people who, and I tell this story in my book, or I touch on it like with a few sentences. But look, my sister and my nieces and my brother-in-law live less than a quarter mile up the road from me, and she was so offended about the idea of my book, you know, before I even published it, that she cut off communication with me, and you know, would not let me see my nieces for about 3 months. I mean, we've gotten back together now and everything's good now, but there was a period of about 3 months, you know, writing this book, and a couple times where I asked myself, is this worth it? Is it worth it that my sister might not ever let me see my nieces again, you know, to write this book? And I had to make that call, you know, because look, a real activist is going to speak out knowing that there's negative consequences. And when they face them with their head up, with pride, because that is, you know, when we talk about activism on a scale or a line, you know, just speaking out is only half the equation. Accepting the negative consequences with pride and your head held high, and not making that trigger you into anger or hate, is the other half of being an effective activist. And I realized that early on. You know, I thought back to, you know, Martin Luther King when he was jailed. You know, when he wrote the letters from the jail, there was no hate or being upset in that. He took those consequences with his head held high, and that's why we're still talking about him today as being a great man and an activist, you know, and a leader, because of that, you know. And we could go on and on through history, through great activists who, you know, took consequences from an oppressor, with their head held high, and it didn't trigger them to hate or say bad things. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am on that.
That's huge, man. I commend you, man. It must have been scary to have this sword over your head about like possibly losing your family. And I mean,
Yeah.
you can rationalize it like if they really love me, blah blah blah, they're gonna see that I'm doing something that's good. But like in the end, it's her beliefs. It's maybe wrapped around the fact that you were an addict, and for her, it's just drugs. Like there's such a web of complication. And at the end of the day, you may be losing people who are really important to you. So for you to hit the gas, props, man. That's really a scary moment.
And looking back, it did have to do with me. She does not understand about what exactly psilocybin is or what it does or what's the frequency
Lumping
of
it
use,
into-
things
yeah.
like that. In her head, and I figured this out later. In her head, she literally thought I was sitting here just eating mushrooms all day. So it was just a misunderstanding. And look, instead of being upset with her that she should have known all this, to me it just showed me that there's an overarching issue with just basic knowledge of exactly what these substances are, what they do, frequency and dosage, things like that. So, I just took it, as I do with most things in life, as a learning experience. And just kind of use that to fit now my paradigm of what needs to be done as far as changing attitudes and beliefs. And I think sometimes in the community we take for granted the fact that some people just lack basic knowledge of these things. And, and again, through no fault of their own. I mean, there's been 50, 60 years of just horrible social constructions built around these substances that need to be broken down. Psilocybin's only killed one recorded person in 10,000 years of use in a medically compromised individual that had heart trouble. Okay, most people don't know that. A lot of people outside the community don't know that. I mean, that fact alone should be compelling enough to start softening how we view these things or how society views these things. And so that's why I was hoping my book, I wrote it twofold. One, for people in the community to be able to be armed with the scientific facts, so that way they could go out and put a cogent argument together in defense of psilocybin. And then two, for people who weren't privy to a lot of this information, to be able to read it, absorb, and maybe change or soften their views, which might, get passed on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. Mm-hmm. And so that was my hopes in writing it. And, we'll see what the future holds, but I hope to make a dent or soften the way people view some, psilocybin, and then obviously I'm going to continue on with some other substances as well.
I love that. It's like the book is like a bridge, the individual who's a little. I don't like using the word ignorant because people take it personally.
Yeah.
But really just lack of knowledge, like you're saying. It's nothing personal. It's just everyone has blind spots in their life. Like a person just doesn't know, like, I don't know, I can't think of an example. Like they just never seen like a those ergonomic mouses or something, or like a type of chair, or like they never seen like sweet and sour sauce. Like you could be like 35 years old and you've like never seen a thing that everyone just knows exists, So for someone to just be like, hey, shrooms, like, oh, magic mushrooms, like, kids tripping out, like just some movie idea, and then if you happen to Google it, luckily these days you're going to see maps and all these awesome things and you look, but you're also going to see a bunch of misinformation. You might even see some legal information about how these are controlled substances. These are high, like, what's it called in the States there when you have like the level 1
Schedule
and 2?
1.
Schedule 1.
There's Schedule 1,
That's
which
it.
means no medicinal value and a high potential for addiction.
And which is hilarious. Like, we were laughing before
crazy,
when you were saying about shrooms. Like, who the hell is gonna binge on shrooms? Like, you're either like a mystic or an insane person if you're just like, yay, like let me download the universe for like.
I laugh
hours
about
on
that
end.
because when you go to an ayahuasca ceremony, the last thing you want to do after ceremony is drink another cup.
That's it. You're like, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, time out.
Like, this
give me some breathing
like
space.
the thought about using ayahuasca as a recreational drug, going to a party after sipping a cup and fucking taking my shirt off and streaking, I can't even imagine that, And then with alcohol, that's accepted behavior, but
Yeah,
it's like
recreational drugs.
Yeah.
It's in the name,
That's
like you
it.
can smoke a little weed, drink a little, and you're more social, It's not, you're not having, this is not a trial. This is not a rite of passage, That's what people don't understand.
That's it. And I resonate with your story about your sister because this is on a way smaller scale, but I've been going to ceremony for many years now, and I've been lying to my parents about it. They would watch my dog or whatever, and I just tell them I'm going to like a yoga meditation retreat. And then something clicked. I'm just like, what the fuck am I lying about this before? I believe in this, that this resonates with me. And you know what? I told him, I came out, I said, you know what I'm actually doing is I'm going to these ayahuasca ceremonies. And I remember it was very hard on my parents, especially my mother, because in her mind, she's visioning probably her son going to trip out with a bunch of people, and we're like doing some very dangerous substances. And like for any mother to imagine their child going out to these drug groups or cults the way she thought it was, it can't be easy, and I can't blame her for that. That's protection. It's actually coming out of love and a little bit of fear, but it's really just because they care about you. But then they start seeing, oh wait, you're back and you're normal, and oh, you're not addicted to the substance or whatever. It starts to change those ideas, those programmings that we had from the war on drugs and all these stories that are been pumped out for so many years, and rewriting the narrative of what these things are.
With the way we're living, like you were saying before, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, you were referring to the science at the time, but like we're the pudding also. For us to be going through these things and to be essentially living a better life, or feeling better about our lives, and then letting that trickle into how we treat other people, and really taking one for the team essentially. And like you were referring to Martin Luther King, it's like this attitude. This kind of attitude.
Yeah, and it goes back to be a living example of the benefits of the medicine. Don't be triggered to anger when most people would. Love everybody. I tell people this all the time. I love absolutely everyone on the face of this earth. I do. And I say that with all sincerity. Do I like everybody all the time? Not necessarily, but I love them. And the people in my life that I love unconditionally, I recently took a real hard look at what do I mean when I say love people unconditionally. And, I thought, and I was like, well, if they did this, I'd have a hard time to love. I said, no, if I'm going to tell someone I love them unconditionally, and this is kind of informed by the plant medicine, it means unconditionally, and I'm going to live by that because, again, I want people to see the definition in the understanding of love I have now after consulting with these medicines, because I think people's view of love, to me, love transcends all time, space, and dimension. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And I tell people all the time, my belief is that when I leave this dimension, the love I give and receive is going to go with me. Okay. It's the only currency that really matters to me. And so I just want to be a living example of that. And, and y'all as well, and everyone who engages in the plant medicine, I encourage them, be the example of love, peace, and understanding that the plant medicine has given you. And it's unfortunate because I see some people like on the Facebook community that are big into, the plant medicine supposedly, but I see a lot of the stuff they say, and it's just, I don't understand where they're coming from. And I'm not saying they're not engaging or taking it seriously, but I just want to tell them, look, think about what you're doing, because we have to be an example here, because we're fighting. It's getting better, but it's still an uphill battle, and so let's work more on, being an example through our actions and our words. But again, we live in this socially constructed environment with tons of divisions, and people, it's just emotionally reacting and getting quick to anger is very much accepted. And it's hard for even people engaging in plant medicine, like a month after the ceremony, to remain cognizant and to avoid being drawn back into a certain degree. And so I've just personally been really working on that. And I think it resonates with people. I get a lot of people that comment on it, they're like, wow, you didn't, yell at this person or say something real smart or snide. And it's just, I think before I react, and I think it's the plant medicine that's helped me kind of be reflective instead of reactive.
And it comes down to reps as well, because you get these insights and downloads from these experiences, and then you come back to this socially constructed world that we're in with labels and divisions. But now you ask to put in the work and continue to fuel the medicine, even when it fades out, because it will fade out. But those deep lessons that you attain during those experiences, you have to feed it water. You have to live by it. You have to bite your tongue when you feel like that anger arise, and instead of yelling at the person, you act on it, love and compassion. These are things that you have to work on. It's not the drink this potion and then it's gone and now you love everyone and someone hits you and you hug them and it's beautiful. No, you're being tested in all these scenarios, and that's the work of the medicine, is the integration part of it. You know,
That's rough.
It's so rough because it's so easy to fall right back into those patterns that were so programmed over how many years, you know?
I think I fall back into them because I feel like it is a potion, or at least I used to. And even with Vipassana or something, I would find these whatever modalities or plant medicines or something, and I would think that it would inform me in some kind of emotional way that I could then I almost expected it to give me this kind of left brain info that I would then have an emotional reaction to, but it's actually the inverse. I'm getting this emotional experience and this kind of heart opening experience, and then having to kind of teach the body and the monkey brain, like, this is reality now. This is the paradigm that I want to work with, like, in my chest, and my brain might resist it. And then I might snap at people and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, like I said before, like you want to take a bullet for the team. If you believe in this and you start seeing the benefit of this, then you have to start seeing yourself as an advocate. And it's funny because avocat in French is lawyer, advocate. Like it's really funny too, because a lot of, like, lawyers get a bad rap just in the kind of like a joking sense on TV and stuff like that. But the truth is that you guys have to learn how to talk to people and convince people, and that is a back door to compassion and empathy. You know, you're learning, how does somebody think, and how can I show them that this matters, why this matters, and then through that you're thinking of people like MLK. You know, like you're trying to present your best self because you are advocating for something that's. I mean, I want to say that we believe in, but I hate to show my bias, but honestly, it's something that's just really important. It's just important for us. Life is too fast, you know. We can't sit and meditate and read books and stuff anymore. A lot of people need something like ayahuasca. They need to push a fast forward button, and it's not a magic potion, but god damn, it helps.
And look, we live in a very fast-paced life, you know. While you're right, you know, meditation, yoga, and a lot of other practices, you know, can lead people towards these places of enlightenment. You know, we live in such a world, and look, our damage to the environment, divisions are just, you know, like we used to say it, you know, when we were in rehab, we say, oh, well, your addiction's outside doing push-ups, you know. Well, that's kind of what's happening in our world, you know. While you're sitting there doing the yoga and all this, these divisions and all this hatred and all this is outside doing push-ups. So
I love that.
You know, the plant medicine can just sort of push you towards that place of enlightenment quicker, you know, to where you can get a better understanding of how you can go out, how one can go out and combat these things. And again, just live and be the peace, love, and understanding that we need to see in the world. And so I agree with you. And real quick, you know, there's been this age-old debate, you know, can someone naturally be taken as far in a psychedelic as like a psychedelic experience can take them naturally? You know, I can't comment on it because to be honest, I've never personally engaged long enough with some of these other practices to even get close. You know, Terrence McKenna said that, you know, it's real egotistical for us to say that that naturally you can go as far as some of these plant medicines take you, but I just don't know. But, you know, I do encourage people to absolutely engage in those practices. And to be honest with you, I think that the plant medicine combined with those practices can help, we were talking about earlier, extend the effects of the medicine. And also, too, if we focus on practicing immediately after and integrating those experiences, I think the practice and real-world application will help cement you know, those understandings within your heart, mind, and body, and that'll help carry it through time. But, you know, and after the Bufo ceremony I watched the other day, the shamans were telling the people, look, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be very aware and hypersensitive. Make sure that you don't put yourself into just real bad or negative situations. Try to integrate this in a positive light. And so that kind of goes along with what you say. You know, we want to try to carry this as long as we can, because look, nobody wants to go every weekend and take a hit of bufo. You know, that's just not something that people are mentally prepared for, and understandably. So I agree. We got to work on carrying this as far as we can and engaging in ceremony when needed. And just to let y'all know, I'm actually working on a huge project that I'm planning on launching after the first of the year. That's going to be focused on connecting people. And I realize we have social media, but I want to create a site that's like more directly connecting people in the plant medicine community, and then connecting them with the spots that they can go and engage with the medicine. Just something that's more direct and on point. And so that's kind of my goal after the first of the year. I'm going to invest some money to develop a website and app.
Wow.
Like a one-stop shop,
Yeah, like a forum where, you know, we have profiles, we meet each other, and then also too, we have a list of places in your area that are offering, you know, religious services.
Yeah.
And it always tightens me up a little bit when technology starts getting in. Maybe I'm just in the Black Mirror generation, but it's like I'm thinking about how maybe now we can rate places, which is actually a good thing, because there's a lot of and look, in all fairness, there are some places out there that are, you know, administering these plant medicines not in the best environments. And, you know, look, life is all about learning. If you're doing your best trying to administer these medicines, but people are, you know, think it's kind of lackluster, well, look, just take it as a learning experience and try to get better at what you're doing. I agree with you, though. You know, a rating, I think, would be helpful. But there are some people out there with probably malicious intent who, you know, victimize these people, unfortunately. But I have heard reports of that as well. That's another risk, right? You're putting all these people, like the one-stop shop, like we said, you know, you're going to have a lot of people putting themselves out there who are suddenly easier to find. So it's like you're kind of putting targets on the back. But that's the work we need to be doing right now, you know, like this melange, like I said earlier, of it being like an upward trend and yet still a taboo, you know, like that's going to have to come to a precipice or some kind of climax. You know, there's going to be some kind of explosion.
You know, in the U.S., and I've kind of had visions of this lately, it's, you know, since I've engaged in plant medicine, I'm more in tune to the universe, and I do get messages, and, you know, I'm starting to see that there's going to be another big court case or two, at least in the U.S., over exactly how far-reaching the RFRA is in the context of plant medicines. It's inevitable. I will say this, you know, my feeling is in the U.S., as long as you're doing this in a ceremonial context, all right, with some sincerity, and you're doing it in a safe way, and you're making sure these substances don't leak out into illicit markets, nobody's going to get arrested, okay? But there's probably going to be some people here in the next few years that get shut down. Well, we're going to need to band together as a community and get, you know, and file on behalf of these people, whoever that might be, and fight the government a few more times in court, in order to really kind of go from gray more into a black and white area of law, how we would ultimately like to have it. But that's just the nature of the beast and the nature of the system that we live in. You know, a lot of people in the medicine community don't like that, but we have to work within we have to play with the cards that we're dealt. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we'll have to engage in some things that, you know, we might not necessarily agree with, but in order to get things done and reach the ultimate goal, we're going to have to, you know, and some people, like you say, are just going to have to take a bullet for the team and stand up and fight. And that's okay. I promise you, there's a lot of support behind you if that's what they are so inclined to do.
Mm-hmm. I guess all of the pieces are needed, you know. Like I think every type of individual in that list is kind of taking a bullet, their own version of a bullet. If someone is holding us back and saying we need to hold on to certain traditional aspects, even though we might not understand exactly why, there's a value to them, and sometimes we do understand why. But the point is that those people, that's their job, that's their karma. They feel like that's important, and they're advocating for that, and they're keeping the movement grounded. And that's important because as it does move forward, it's not forgetting the point. And then the people who are gung-ho might be forgetting the point and just trying to cut all through the red tape and get to the finish line. And then you maybe you lose a lot along the way if you don't have that motley crew, you know? Like, we're all here for the same reason. We're just going about it in different ways, and we're going to find a kind of half-happy for everybody. Because if not, it's going the way of the dinosaur. That's what's scary, you know. Like it's either gonna turn into this commoditized freaking, you know, like Gatorade. You know, like I saw a picture on the internet, and it was like ayahuasca, but like in a glass bottle with like a brand. And
I've seen that exact same picture.
That I'm sure everybody feels a little like your skin crawls a little bit when you see that. You're just like, okay, maybe this is good. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just have this knee-jerk reaction to like the pitfalls of our capitalistic society, but maybe it's just the next step. You know, if my grandkids can get ayahuasca at the corner store, am I gonna feel bad about that or good about that? I don't know. But
well,
anyway,
you know, I have mixed feelings on it as well. And you know, look, at the end of the day, we got to realize a few things, and one of the most important is that we really can't control what anyone else does. You know, if it's important for us to consume the medicine in the traditional shamanic context, well then I'm going to go and engage in ceremony when I do it. I'm not going to buy my ayahuasca at the store. I'm going to have a healer brew it up for me and administer it to me. You know, but I can't get eaten up on someone else who might want to just go get a ball of ayahuasca and lay on the couch and do their thing, you know?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I tell you, if we're buying ayahuasca at the corner store, as much as a lot of people might hate it, we've reached our goal,
right?
You know, of legalization and normalization. And I tell you, there's going to be people who need the medicine that might be the only way it'll reach them, you know, is to actually like go and grab it, you know, at a corner store. So there's pros and cons with that. I hope that we can reach legalization and normalization without having to go that far. Obviously, we do live in capitalistic societies where if we can rape something sacred for some money, people will do it. And, you know, along those lines, I will say that, you know, there are a few retreats that I'm aware of that are charging people absorbent amounts of money to engage in the plant medicine. You know, my hope is that as this becomes more normalized and more retreats open up, that price will be dramatically dropped. You know, look, my view is this. When you decide to open up a retreat and administer plant medicine to people, you kind of give up on the idea of being a multi-millionaire, okay? There comes like an aspect of it that, you know, look at Joel Osteen. I mean, people vilify that guy, you know, and I'm not going to sit here and weigh in on this or that, but I mean, people make good arguments. Like, look, you supposedly a huge Christian minister making all this money, taking money for all kinds of stuff that really, really should be free. And now, look, I agree that it costs money to collect the plant medicine, to brew it and administer it. And those people should be compensated for their time and all that. But I just see some prices out there that, and especially when you got a ceremony of like 40 people, that it's just not reflecting, honestly, the price that it takes to do that within reasonably compensating people. And so I'm hoping, again, that this will kind of level itself off as the retreats become more popular and more protected.
I like to think that the Vipassana model, I don't know if you've heard of Vipassana, but it's like these 10-day retreat. It's like a ancient technique. It takes usually 10 days or longer, and it's a very heavy practice with no outside stimulus, no phones, and you just do meditation every day, like 8 hours, 10 hours a day. But their system is so beautiful, and it works, which is what gives me hope for the movement and for all the future aspects of where this can go, is because they function solely on donations. And the whole and they have they're hosting like 150 people at a time, like 70 men,
Wow.
80 women. So this is a big organization, and it's 10 days of food, and everyone's eating and serving 3 meals a day, whatever. But it works as everyone who is in the practice, they want to be servants, so they'll work as servants, and they'll serve people, they'll cook the food, they'll prepare the food, they'll hand out the food, they'll clean up, and all you have to do is show up, and then at the end of the 10 days, you give what you can, with the philosophy is what you can afford is what you can afford, and that's what should be given, and it works because people feel the value after that, and based on if someone's salaries in the hundreds, thousands plus, that they can give a lot more than someone who's in a $30,000 salary. And it's all working out. And they've been functioning for like 20 years now in at least in Montreal, Canada, but they're worldwide. They're everywhere. And
Or the Montebello.
Montebello, yeah, in Quebec. Sorry.
There's an integrity to it because they don't even allow you to donate until you've done it.
Yes.
You know,
Okay.
so they really have this. I mean, it's a risk in a sense, but it's the best way to go. It's like you're jumping off the cliff. It's scary, but you are making people see like, oh, these people are really falling. These people really need help, and they will take whatever help they can get. If you donate them food, if you donate them your time, and you have like skills and you want to help them like fix the building or something, like they will just take what they can get, and everything gets repurposed into I don't know, there must be a word for it in like the business world, but it's like you're just taking what you need. You're not really going to make that big profit and like someone's driving around, like someone up
costs.
high is driving up a Cadillac or
Yeah.
something. Like that doesn't exist, you know.
No.
And that's kind of what we're looking for is this integrity, this honesty. And, you know, if you're in California or in like, I don't know, Vancouver or something where people have more money, so then you charge a little bit more, you're still being honest. You're taking what the average person can afford. You're making enough money to sustain yourself and maybe a little extra in case you have a rainy day or a rainy few months because of a virus or something. So is there a word for that, like in the business world, like just having this kind of like honest practice where you're not stealing essentially, like you're not
I would say ethics.
ethical business.
But
Yeah,
that's-
just call it ethical
that's
business.
Morals,
obviously a
ethics,
term that, you know, is not as loosely defined. You know, what's ethical to one person isn't the other. But, you know, the model you just described, I like the idea of that. And, you know, I like that. And so I hope that those kind of models can translate over with some of these retreats and stuff like that.
That's it.
And, you know, make a workable model that will become the norm. Because look, Christian churches run off essentially donations, you know, and they do really well. And the people who work for them live good lives, you know.
Yeah.
I hope that we can reach that level too. I mean, look, if someone owns a piece of property and is hosting ayahuasca retreats, you know, bi-monthly, I want them to be able to live good and provide their family off that, you know. But when we're talking about some ayahuasca retreats pulling in almost $100,000 a weekend, you know, and look, people will pay the money, but the thing is, we got to realize that a lot of these people are desperate, you know, and you're in a sense kind of taking advantage of people in a weak spot, you know. But
really good
again,
point.
I think, like you say, there are people from all different income strata who go to these retreats, but there is a cutoff level. You know, people who are on minimum wage aren't going to be able to afford to go to an ayahuasca retreat. And the thing is that they probably need it the most. So this income-based, you know, give as you can, I like that, because then the person at the top can afford to cover somebody at the bottom
That's
who can't
it.
afford.
Yeah,
And I think that's within
sliding
the
scale.
spirit of the medicine
That's
as
it.
well.
And
I
that's
mean,
what they
I think
enforce
the
that.
medicine would agree.
Yeah, and they don't enforce that. I should
Medicine would agree.
Yeah, but that's the philosophy behind it, is that you're giving enough for the next person, but knowing that your spot at this Vipassana retreat was paid for by the person before you. So
You almost feel obligated, and it's
Yeah,
not a bad thing.
no.
It's like this, you know, like if I worked for a church and I was getting paid, I would be so humbled because the people I'm serving are directly paying my salary. There's no middleman, there's no dance there. I am serving people who are coming to church and they are donating freely. There's no obligation, and they're literally paying my way. Like that's huge.
with deep intention too, because it's what they can afford to pay you. So
Exactly. And
there's so
they're
many
covering each other.
there's
like
so
you were
many
saying.
layers to that payment. It's that I'm in a tough spot. I can only afford a couple $100. Here you go. But that couple $100 was never expected. It's just what you can truly offer. And that. There's just so much beautiful intention and love and compassion behind those systems that work. And this one thing, when I was at that center doing the meditation, like you're supposed to be focusing inwards and really looking inwards. I just couldn't help but be amazed at how this machine was functioning. I was looking around and all the food was beautiful. Every day was new recipes, new styles of food, really good food, I have to say. And I couldn't help but wonder that this is all donated time.
I had a similar feeling. It's like it's spitting in the face of the way the rest of our society works. It's just this weird jewel in the middle of the country.
And it's functioning. And that's
Yeah.
what's so crazy. And it's like this system is operating retreats every weekend, maybe multiple times a week. They 10-day slots. Sometimes they have 3-day slots.
They have like seasons too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's working. And we're talking thousands and thousands of people are coming per year. And it's functioning solely off donations, off of the good-hearted people who believe in this and want to contribute to this.
And a whale every now and then.
Yeah.
You know, just
one whale.
Some guy drops $1 million.
Yeah, well, you
It
know,
happens.
and I think the plant medicine community has people like that too. You know,
For sure.
That's it.
So obviously, you know, again, I think this is a workable model, and not every organization, you know, is going to adopt it, but you know, hopefully there will be enough retreats and you know, ceremonial centers that adopt it to where, you know, we can get some of these people in lower income areas into these retreats. You know, I mean, like for instance, you know, let's say you're a single mother living at the poverty line. You know, just imagine the spiritual warfare that's going on in their life on a daily basis. Well, you know, no doubt about it that person could greatly benefit from engaging with the plant medicine. And so hopefully one day we'll be able to, you know, send those people to at least give it a try, you know, and see if it'll help them. Because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not huge. I don't know just a ton about the traditional indigenous practices, but I mean, if you're a member of a village, let's say in Peru, I mean, are you paying for the ayahuasca if you go to the shaman? I mean, is there a fee, or is it kind of just, you know, from what I understand, it's just kind of give and take in those communities where it's like, you know, we support the shaman, you know, feed them and all this. And then if we need the medicine, he provides it to us. I'm not sure how it works down there, but I have a hard time believing that, you know, shamans are making $150,000 a year in the Amazon serving their people.
I'm sure some of them are, and I'm sure that that place is owned by like some white guy who's just like, he's like, look, you keep doing what you're doing, but your hut's gonna get bigger every year. You're gonna get more and more customers. You don't ask any questions. I take a cut, you know. And it's like these white people just coming to South America and saying like they're having this religious experience, and they don't know it's like some Bill Gates type guy who's like behind the scenes, like
Yeah.
Well,
who knows?
You know,
man?
I posted an article in my Facebook group not too long ago that address this issue, and apparently in the Amazon their belief is that if these shamans get too wealthy and there was one example where a shaman was serving, you know, people, you know, from North America and Europe, and it got enough money that he like bought 10 acres, cut down the trees, and had cows. Well, the other shamans got together and said, well, the plant medicine is upset with you. We have to have like a special ceremony to make this right with the plant medicine, what you've done. So it's like a big deal to them that a shaman, you know, make a lot of money and then act, you know, against the jungle, you know, cutting down trees, having, you know, living wealthy.
That really is
So
like
there
ass
might
backwards,
be something to what I said, and obviously I'm going to do some more reading into it, but that sounds right to me. You know, that sounds probably how it should go. It's just, you know, again, when you get into the practice of serving people in a religious or spiritual context, you living and being a multi-millionaire just doesn't resonate well with me. Speaking for my personal.
But I feel like there's such a strong logic there. Like this person is disenfranchising themselves from the source of their labor. You know, like you are there to be a grounded individual. You're supposed to be in the mud with these people, but you have a higher purpose, or like you're just facilitating. You know, like you have you have knowledge and resources to help these people grow. And if you're co-opting that whole process to get wealthy, and then you're just becoming socially and politically removed from these people, and even maybe destroying the very fucking jungle that is providing you, like you're killing the goose to get the eggs. Like that's like that farm story is really ass backwards. Like that's really an interesting example, because like you literally pissed off the medicine. You know, the other shamans were like, bro, what the fuck? Like I didn't even know who you are. I'm like 10 kilometers that way, and the medicine just keeps bitching about you. You know, like,
Yeah.
For them, it's like a phone
system.
system.
Article that like Mother Aya came to them and was like, "Hey, I'm kind of upset. Your homeboy over here is not living how he was taught," and they came together and had some. I don't know what the ceremony was. I don't know if anybody got hurt. But there was some kind of special ceremony they did to kind of rectify the situation.
I hope it's not like prison rules or something. I hope they kind of helped him see the error of his ways. It's like, hey, we have a special brew for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Mother Iowa wanted you to drink this one. You know, it's got a little something in it.
She told us exactly what to put in it.
And he just comes. He's just crying. He's like, I'm sorry.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that comes down to what you're serving. Are you serving self, or are you serving for others, right? And when you start to serve self, that's where you start seeing these discrepancies of the preacher who starts to become a millionaire, who would have a private jet or would have that big plot of land that he doesn't actually need, in service of people that he's serving himself. And that's where that line can get really squiggly. And the intention behind it starts to get messy, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're chasing success out of fear at that point also. If you start hoarding money and thinking you need to be a multimillionaire or something when your initial exploration was to serve the plant medicine. I can't judge these people. If they grew up with it and then they're like, oh, you know, I'm gonna like not become a shaman. I'm gonna like go become a lumber worker and cut down my own ancestral forest because I want to buy an iPhone or something. Like, I don't know what's going on with these people. How are they becoming westernized? How are they preserving their own culture? How is their own culture remaining integrated and changing with the times? I don't know any of that stuff, and I would love to. And it's important, but it's
exactly what you just described. Terrence McKenna said exactly that. He said, basically, a lot of people who would have become shamans, and this was back, I guess, the talk he had in the late 80s, early 90s, he said a lot of the people that should have grown up into the shamanic lineage decided to go be a manager at a lumber plant, you know, and are engaging in that now. But as you put it, you know, now they're chopping down the very jungle that supplies the medicine that they're supposed to be providing. And so, but, you know, that's just our Western capitalistic culture invading there. And that's exactly the product of it. And again, is exactly why we need plant medicine. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you know, well, you brought this medicine to America, you're kind of bastardizing it. But as us Americans and other European and Canadians who are highly capitalistic consume the medicine, you know, our actions are really what's affecting the ancestral lands. And so again, that's why I think Mother Nature, Mother Aya has a part in this. She's reached out over, you know, because let's be honest, you know, the plant medicine knows no borders. You know, borders are not within its paradigm. It's reaching across borders to try to eventually get to people who will have an effect back, you know, where it resides. The way I kind of see it.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add, like, I love that it's almost like something got stuck to our shoe, you know, like we went and explored this ancient world, and like we think we own the place. I mean, you know, like in history, like white people, whatever you want to say, but like people are exploring and expanding, and in fact destroying or altering the terrain. But then like this ayahuasca, like these traditions, these plant medicines, these shamanic ideals, even kind of get stuck to the bottom of our shoe, and then we track it home. And we think we're kind of like just doing what we need to do and being a good worker ant, or even maybe a queen. And then this thing starts showing us the error of our ways, but we never would have seen the error of our ways if we didn't like make the error, if we didn't like go and like threatened the plant medicine almost, you know, like you put pressure on it and it kind of went like, oh, okay, you want to fuck with me? Like, let's get inside of your head and then you go back to your fucking country and then I start spreading through you over there. And it's like, we can't, I was going to say we can't win, but I would say we can't lose. I mean, Aya can't lose. Like Mother Earth can't lose. Like we're literally like golems of the 4 elements, like popping out of this fucking planet. Yep. And of course we're going to eventually like come to and realize that it's all connected, man. And we're fucking it up. We're responsible. You can play with the blame game all you want, but we are the mothers and fathers of everything right now. And plant medicine shows us that, and we have to protect plant medicine because it shows us that, and we have to protect everything because we now know that. You know, I'm ranting. I'm sorry.
Look, I think the cat's out of the bag at this point. I don't see, you know, ayahuasca not necessarily winning this one. Now, how long it's going to take, I can't say for sure. But I'm as far as plant medicine concerned, the cat's out of the bag. It's into the research institutions. It's reached the legislatures. It's there. It's there. We just got to keep the momentum going. But I think as far as like winning hearts and winning over people, I would venture to say, you know, 95% or greater of the people who engage with it get won over by the medicine. Mm-hmm. I mean, most people I know that have participated in it, you know, realize that this is it. You know, atheists come to actually believe in God and higher powers and stuff through this medicine. I mean, that is very powerful. And so, again, I think it is winning. I think it's going to win. You know, it's just up to us to carry this torch forward and just spread the message as much as we can, whether it be through podcasts, books, just face-to-face conversations, online, just however we can spread the word, live according to the teachings of the medicine, and just show people that, hey, look, maybe you don't necessarily want to engage with this, but like the people who are no threat to you. You know, this is how they live, and really this is how we kind of, the ideal world should be, you know, peace, love, and understanding.
A lot of friction.
And living in tune with Mother Nature.
Yeah, well, that's where the friction comes in. Eventually we will brush up against the people who are bulldozing everything, and we're going to be like, hey, please stop. No, you know, and so that is going to come to a head at some time. But, you know, again, the hope is that we reach enough people in good enough spots to where we can actually put up a front against them and, you know, come to some kind of mediation, some kind of agreement, you know, that, you know, let's stop this. You know, money is not the absolute driver of everything. And, you know, can I say what that agreement will be? No, but hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and something can be done. Cross my I mean, but you said it perfectly, man.
Yeah.
It's the point of no return. You know, like there's that we got to stop making a concerted effort, you know, but it's definitely just like the cat is out of the bag, and it's just it is kind of inevitable now, and the only thing that they, you know, like the proverbial the only thing they can do is slow it down, you know, and try to deviate it, but it's coming.
It's coming.
It's came.
You know, I just thought about this. Just imagine how many thousands of people were touched by the plant medicine just this weekend, who were just waking up today and moving around after ceremony last night, and are really been touched and are absorbing exactly the things that we've been talking about today. And imagine how many are going to do it next weekend and the weekend following. So yeah, it's here.
It fills me with joy. That's such a good perspective.
I'm very happy about it.
I love it, man. I have such, maybe too much optimism, but I really believe the medicine knows what's going on and it knows what it's doing. And we can help guide it and direct it, but it's going there regardless of us. We just got to keep living by exactly what you were saying, and it's going to just show through, you know? But it has its own agenda way above all of us. And it's been proved, because we spoke in the beginning of our conversation, from 10 years ago in 2012, 8 years ago till now, it's just, I can't even comprehend the difference that when I would say ayahuasca to one person, 10 people, no one would know about it. And now I say to 10 people, and like 6 or 7 of them are like, yeah, I heard about that. My blah, blah, blah. So it's happening, you know, and it's hard to see it when you're in it, but it's going on, and just fucking let this wave go, you know?
That's it.
Yeah, man. Brother, we hit our time.
Okay.
Fuck, that was awesome. I really,
Yeah, hey, I enjoyed it. And again, man, thank y'all very much for having me. And, you know, I just feel extremely blessed that y'all reach out to me. And I would be glad to come on anytime.
anytime.
And I know we'll be in contact in the future. And, you know, I'll make sure to let everybody know about your podcast, because y'all are doing really good work. And, you know, these podcasts are a huge part of spreading the message. So just keep up the good work, man. I love it.
Fuck,
Thank
man.
you. That means
Thank
a
you.
lot, man. Yeah, we're just nodes on a fucking web, man. But like, I can't wait. I want to pick up that book of yours as well, and I'm very happy to have you on. I cannot wait to have you on again. I wish we could go on longer, because I feel like we could just shoot the breeze for a couple of hours.
Yeah, no, we could, man. But I tell you what, in between now and next time, I'll jot down some notes, some more insights, and we'll evolve it as we go.
I love
That's
it.
it. I'll read the book and
Yeah.
maybe re-listen to this, you know, and we can just kind of continue.
Hell yeah, man. If you want anyone just to, if they can get access to your book, where can they go and to see it and buy it, whatever?
Okay, so it's Psychedelics in Mental Health series. My first book is subtitled Psilocybin. As of right now, I've got the ebook and print book up on Amazon. I will be kind of diversifying my ebook platforms here over the next, I think I'm in 90 days with Kindle. So as soon as that turns up, I'm going to probably diversify it to 2 or 3 more platforms. But as of right now, it's on Amazon. You know, and I get a lot of people, just real quick, that, you know, they have a problem buying from Amazon. I get it. But I will say this, is that their royalties on it are very fair and good. And so, you know, because a lot of people think that, oh, I put it on Amazon, I must not get anything out of it. No, I do get good royalties out of it. And just know that, you know, the money I get off my book, I'm funding me going to retreats, writing my book on DMT, writing my book on, you know, churches. And so, you know, my journey into this isn't a profitable one, not necessarily because I make plenty of money in my legal job. I'm really doing this more to just be of service. And so a lot of the money, most of the money I get off my book is going straight into doing more publications, and getting the word out there.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, is
Yep.
helping in our part and pushing the movement forward, you know?
That's it. Just, you know, that's what I've been told through the plant medicine, is just use my talents to the best of my ability, to help in any way that I can. And I'm trying to live that every single day.
Fuck yeah.
That's very inspiring. I don't want to sound cheesy, but like,
Ah.
you keep repeating it, and it's something that I need to be drilled into my head, man. Like we got to act right, you know. We got to be representatives of the things that we believe, and I'm really hearing you when you say that. It's kind of making me check myself, which is good.
Well, look, hey, look, that's at the end of the day, all we can do is think and contemplate, and you know, one day, and just try to act in accordance with what our beliefs are. You know, with the plant medicine. And again, we live in this socially constructed environment that obviously tells us to go make every dollar we can off every single thing or talent that we got. Well, you know, just when you get some alone time, just reflect on that. And then once you come, just act on it, you know, and that's all we can do.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you again.
Thank
man.
y'all, man.
We're
I
gonna
look
do this
forward to hearing
again.
from y'all in the future.
Yeah, we're going to do this
Likewise,
again for sure.
All right, man. Much love, y'all.
Take care.
Peace and love, man. Take care.